I'd like to call to order the Charter Township of Oxford Planning Commission regular meeting scheduled for Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. If you would, please rise and pay respects to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I note the roll, please?
Corey Bailey,
Here.
Ed Hunwick,
Here.
John Knoll,
Here.
Mike Spiz,
Here.
Mike Young.
Here.
There is a quorum. Commissioners Knopfenberger are both excused. And commissioners, if you could pull your microphone down, it's hard enough to hear, but if you could pull it down close to your mouth so at least the cable can pick it up also.
Okay, move to item 4, approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda dated 4/22/2021.
Support.
Mr. Chair, do you have questions?
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
We're here for the public hearing, correct?
Yes.
Is there anything to be taken up from that public hearing in new business? Because there's nothing shown in new business.
There will be a motion entertained after the public hearing.
But just under public hearing, we don't need to have anything specifically on new business to have that discussion.
No.
Okay. I would think you would, but. Because the public hearing is just that, a public hearing. Right, which we're not allowed to comment, we're just taking in information.
Correct. That public hearing will close,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll move on to discussion of the same item.
I think it's because there's no other
And then
business
motion.
on the agenda.
It's a formality, but I understand.
Okay.
Clear? Any other discussion? Okay. No longer Zoom, correct?
Right, you could just call a voice
All
vote.
right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Item number 5, approval of the minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the planning commission regular meeting minutes dated March 25th, 2021.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. Item number 6, public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone out in the public wishing to speak on an item that is not currently on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item 7, commissioners' comments. Mr. Spiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to commend Oxford Township and its planning commission for actually meeting in person and not putting in a state of emergency to allow everybody to continue to meet virtually. I think it's important that we have these opportunities to see everybody's pretty face and actually talk in person. Yes, being virtual is good, but it has its own issues, and I'm sure everybody in this room can understand that, especially if you do it every day, all day for your day jobs. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Unwin.
I have no comment.
Mr. Bailey.
I completely agree with Mr. Spiz. It's good to be back in person.
Mr. Knoll.
I'd just like to mention we're making progress in 24 again, and we got our engineer will give us a little report on what's going on in 24 later in the meeting.
Okay, very good. My only comment is I understand that Tough Mudder is returning back to Oxford, so that's an opportunity for the township and also the village and the DDA and other people that are out in the community to be aware that that is coming. And it brings an awful lot of people into the community for that, I think it's 2 days, I think.
Yes, either 12 and 13.
Yeah, so just be aware that that is happening this year, or planned to happen at this point.
What's the date on that one?
12th and the 13th
Um,
of June.
June.
June, okay.
I'm doing it Saturday morning if you want to join.
I'm okay, thank you, though.
All right, let's move to the public hearing. Purpose of this hearing is to receive public comments on the proposed zoning map amendment, rezoning of one property and a portion of one property from SF1 Suburban Farms District to R3 Single Family Residential District. Properties are located at 930 Drainer Road, 04-36-100-001 and 04-36-100-002. We're going to go through a sequence of events. We'll have the petitioner come up and explain why he's looking for such. Then we'll have some open time for the public to make their comment. That public testimony will come to a close. After that, we'll have comments from our planning and engineering groups, and then also from the fire department, police department, and then our commissioner comments and discussion. So at the first stage, why don't we have the petitioner come up, give a brief explanation as to why they're looking into having this property rezoned. Please state your name, your address.
Home address? Or business?
Your current,
Pardon?
your business.
Business. Eric Knesny, Clearview Homes. Address is 811 East South Boulevard, Rochester Hills, 48307. We're here today in front of you, the board, to seek rezoning from SF1 to R3. The reason for it is we have under contract the property. It's approximately 130 acres. The property to the east of it is currently zoned SF1. The property to the west of it is actually currently zoned R1 and is a new residential development that was recently developed. Currently 3 levels below what the property we're discussing is, and would be 2 levels below what we're actually requesting. Property to the south of the proposed property change is actually currently zoned R3, so we would be requesting to match that zoning, our property being to the north of the R3 that's south.
Okay, is that it?
That's it in a nutshell.
Okay.
Thank you.
Once the public gives their comment, there may be some questions for you from the
Sure.
commissioners when we get that stage of the game, okay?
Sure.
All right, let's move to the public comment, the open public hearing. Do I need a motion to have that opened up?
Yes.
I make a motion.
Depends on how you do
to-
it. You don't take motions to the council.
Go ahead. Okay, sorry.
You want me to-
Go ahead.
With your permission, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing at 7:07 in regards to the agenda item, Clearview Homes, excuse me, I lost my track,
The rezoning.
the rezoning, thank you.
We're good, I'll support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. If there's anyone out in the public wishing to speak on this topic about the rezoning, you're welcome to do so. Just raise your hand, bring you up to the lectern. Please state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the commission, but the commission will not respond back to you.
Do we need to vote on the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I skip that? So sorry. You know, switching from Zoom and business and Zoom, and it gets a little crazy. It's first time back in a while, sorry. I'm sorry, it's been moved and supported, there's been no discussion. Shall we vote on it, the motion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, those opposed? Okay, public hearing is now open. Okay, now the public, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand, come on up to the lectern, you have 3 minutes to address the commission. Please don't forget to state your name and address.
Sure. Hello, my name is Nancy Sarconi. I live at 657 Indian Lake Road. So my concern is the proposal is for 1 acre parcels with homes 15 feet apart. That'll be the side setback. It just seems like there would be a better use of the natural beauty than to put in a subdivision with those types of houses taking up all that land. And this also ties into traffic situation. How long has it taken Lapeer Road to get fixed? How long were we under construction? Couple years? Okay. How much more can Lapeer Road really handle? It's not that wide, and the further you come uptown, the narrower it gets. So we're talking about Tullamore. I don't know how many homes are going in there. And then we're talking about Clearview. Well, he's talking about 129 acres under development. That's a lot of cars. Where are these cars gonna go? It's gonna block off Drainer. It's gonna block off Bar Road when they look for detours. And then it's gonna corrupt Indian Lake Road. Those dirt roads, and they should stay dirt, are pretty rough when we have too much traffic on them. And it's gonna corrupt Conklin too, because people are gonna need a way out to Lapeer Road. How much traffic can Lapeer handle? So why not, put something that will still give Oxford tax credits, like some of the proposals, like a nursing facility, for where they can live the rest of their life in natural beauty instead of just cement. And let's not forget about the wildlife. I know there's a lot of elevation and they weren't going to develop that because how can you? But there's a lot more to it than that. So the main concern is houses too close together, taking up all that beautiful land, and then the traffic consideration. That's the big one. That's the big one. Especially when they're so close together. So that's what I have to say right now.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Good evening, Dan Burgess, 1317 East Drainer Road. I own the 10 acres, 313 feet lake frontage that this is going to touch. First of all, that's a coastal plain marsh. The lake has never had a gas motor. It's somewhat protected. I want to read a letter here from the Nature Conservancy. On behalf of the Nature Conservancy, I would like to thank you for your support in protecting Grampian Lake. Grampian Lake is recognized by scientists as a coastal plain marsh of high quality. Coastal plain marshes are quite uncommon, and Grampian Lake is the only one located in the southeast portion of our state. As you know, the marsh provides habitat for a variety of plants and animals. Your property represents a beautiful and important part of Oakland County's original landscape. As a participant in the Michigan Natural Area Registry, you are helping to maintain the natural resource heritage of Oakland County. And it goes on and on to say how much they really appreciate it, which is all good and dandy. It's wetlands, it's a coastal plain marsh. It's a special type of wetland that is found on the shores of saltwater seepage. I could go on and on and on, I only have 3 minutes. What could damage a plain marsh is, what can damage? Perhaps the greatest threat is the rare natural community in Michigan. To this rare community is shoreline development for housing and for agriculture. I'm not against, building houses, that's for sure. If hydrology of the system is changed so that the water levels are no longer varied, it is likely that more common plant species will invade the area. We have plenty of those already in Oxford. It can't be upset. We have never had a gas motor on that lake that I'm aware of. It's all full of wetlands. I mean, I was involved in the Wetlands Mitigation Act years ago. Besides that, we only have 6 houses on that lake. Our SF3, I don't know the exact terminology, SF1 to the east of their proposed site is beautiful. At first we were upset. 2.5 to 6 acre parcels. They maintained the natural beauty. There's wildlife there. I was amazed at how beautiful that is. The one to the west, that was the east. The one to the west, it was horrific. In 1 week, they cleared out hundreds of years of growth. It looked like a bomb fell on the place. Nobody liked looking at that. It's horrible. You go to the sub on the north side of the road to the east, 2.5 to 6 acre sites, it's gorgeous. But, you know, the whole point, and then now we can go back to the traffic. You know, I know everyone tried to work on the road. Unfortunately, they stopped at both sides of my property, but, I don't know how much more traffic we can take on there.
Right.
We've got one sub going in that's R1, I guess, and at least it's R3. I mean, I didn't know that until I got here. But it's just a lot of stuff going on there, you know, all the dust and all the potholes. I had to throw away someone's front end today. It fell off in front of my house. It's really bad. And I'm not here to complain, I'm just here, the most important thing is the lake. That lake is very cool. And that wildlife there's awesome. We're seeing eagles now and everything, you know, it's just a really cool part of our community, and I just would hate to see someone try to put a dock out there and 60 families or whatever trying to go fishing or something on a small lake like that, natural lake. It's not a gravel pit. It's a natural lake, and a very beautiful one at that.
Thank you. Anyone else out in the public wish to speak?
Hi, my name is Karen Vavrick. I'm at 689 Indian Lake Road. Happy Earth Day.
Yes.
Yes. We recently moved to the area from Rochester to get away from the subdivisions and the suburbs. We were so excited when we found our home and our lot, and extremely disappointed to see that we were understood that it was first brought that there would be 2.5 acre parcels. So I guess I question why all of a sudden do we want to go down to an acre? How will that benefit the community? More houses in Oxford, which is known for being small and having bigger lots. Money? I mean, I guess the world runs that way, right? How will this benefit the wildlife, like Nancy had mentioned? One of the big draws of the area is the untouched wildlife. Just recently in the past week, I'm not sure who it was, but someone very politely, I mean that sarcastically, put a big no trespassing sign at the end of our property, facing our property to the property where they want to border this. Why, I have no idea. We were weeding, and so that was a good reminder to come to the meeting. Appreciate that. I would love to understand more, again, how this is going to benefit the community, putting little 1 acre parcels, building it up. How is it going to benefit our wildlife, our children, the generation living here now? And again, why are we going from 2.5 acre parcels to 1 acre? It's no new news. The surrounding developments, which if you look at the maps, that's what we love about Oxford. That's what we love about our town, is that we can have a great town with bigger lots. That's why we're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak?
Yeah, I'll talk.
Yep.
Paul Vavrick, 689 Indian Lake Road. So we own the 10-acre parcel to the south of the property. And so now we're talking about having 1 acre parcels right in our backyard, which really is unfortunate. As my wife said, I have my wife and our 4 kids. We're in a house. We're looking to get out and get away. And now, unfortunately, we find out that we're going to have a subdivision in our backyard. So as far as consistency going from, we have, I think there's 4 or 5 10-acre parcels that are going to be bordering this 1 acre subdivision, which really is going to draw back from, what we're out there for. It's going to, where's all the wildlife going to go, as my wife brought up. The other point on traffic is I actually work at Orion Assembly, so I head up on 24, and before it used to be, traffic is ridiculous coming home if you at busy times. Going through the construction was hard enough, but still, when we have, now that people are going back to work, working in person, I really haven't stopped. I've been in person at work since May, but now we have more and more people going back to work. When everybody, if vaccination works out and we get everybody going back to work, and traffic gets back to what it used to be, because I was loath coming down M24 prior to, whenever they had any work functions in Lake Orion, Oxford, because I'd be stuck in traffic. I don't wanna come back to that, and it's just gonna get worse as they build more and more subs, which there's subs popping up all around that area. That's just not gonna help out with the draw to Oxford. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else out in the public wishing to speak?
I do have a question. Should I approach?
Sure.
I just don't understand, the parcels under question. So that would be the most northern parcel. So it looks like it's designated, SF1, but he wants to make them both, R3s, except for a little part. So how does that work? I mean, it's two separate parcels, right?
There's these
But
two there.
there's a little part that is gonna have a different zoning.
That's above the road here.
Page 7, you have a good.
So I don't understand that.
Okay, we'll get into that.
Okay,
Thank you.
is that even legal? Maybe not. Okay, I'll sit down.
Thank you. Anyone else out in the public wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none. Look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing at 7:27, 7:22.
I'll support.
Who moved and supported, any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Let's move on to the section where we get comments from the township consultants and staff. Mr. Sharp?
You go first?
Sure.
Good evening, planning commissioners. Jim Sharp, Sharp Engineering. You should have in front of you a report dated, I don't know what it is. What is it, March 30th?
March 30th, yeah.
I believe. So from an engineering perspective, we don't get too involved with rezonings. Just wanted to bring some things to your attention. With regards to the site elevations, you've heard from some of the residents, there is a lot of topography out there. So even though the parcels themselves total 60 acres, not all of it is buildable. That being said, I don't know, we haven't seen any plans, obviously, so we don't know what they're planning to do with infrastructure type items. Unfortunately, these parcels are like the first parcels outside of the township's water and sewer districts. Again, we haven't seen a plan. We don't know if the petitioner, if they move forward with the development, would petition the township to enter into those districts. But at this time, they lie just outside of the water and sewer districts. There is water main actually on their property. We came through the Crossroads for Youth property with the project. Crosses underneath Drainer Road onto their property and then heads west to the Tullamore development, which Tullamore is again the last one that is in the water and sewer district. Same thing with sanitary sewer. There is a pump station that is directly across the street at the Crossroads for Youth camp. So again, once a development plan is put together, then we will be able to comment further on that. With regards to storm sewer, there are existing wetlands and so forth on site. Any wetlands, that exceed 2 acres in size are, going to be regulated by Eagle, and so they would have to do wetland surveys and so forth. Same with the lake that the one gentleman commented on, as far as any discharge to those lakes or something, everything would have to be approved through Eagle. The township does have a 25-foot wetland and natural feature setback, so people would not be able to build right up to those. As far as boats and access, I can't really comment on those types of things. It's not my bailiwick there. And with regards to this, there's also the safety path. If a development moves forward, it is part of the township's master safety path plan. But again, we really don't have a lot of comment at this time. Just wanted to bring some of those items to your attention as far as what future infrastructure is. One thing I just did remember with regards to traffic, the road commission, generally requires traffic studies somewhere in the range. They kind of look at each development individually, but if it's around 80 lots or so, then that's when they start requiring the traffic studies to be performed for a potential development there. So that would be something else that we would consider once a plan is brought forward, should, you know, the applicant choose to develop it. So that's all I have.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you have any idea what might be the proposed number of lots he would put in this development based
I
on?
really don't. Again, we
Your
didn't
best guess?
didn't get that in depth to it. You know, how, if you got 160 acres, I mean, there's different things that they could do with the property. And I don't know how much of, I really can't answer that because I don't know how much of it is wetland. I didn't really get into it at this time. I don't think it would be, if it's 160 acres, I don't think it would be 160 lots. I don't think that they could come forward with a development plan that would show that. But you know, it might be in the 100, 120 range, somewhere in there, when they take out all the lakes and the wetlands and things. I'm really not, you know, I don't want to be held to that, I guess is what I'm saying, because I didn't study it too far. Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Carl R. Wartman, the planner.
All right,
Zach?
thank you. And I got spoiled with technology, so I have my laptop instead of a printed copy, but laptop is a little cranky with me, so my apologies if I'm a little slow for that. First, I'm going to speak to the members of the public who I suspect haven't been involved in zoning map amendments many times in their lives. So give me a second, I'm going to turn to them so they get a framing of where we're at. So for those of you who haven't been involved in zoning map amendments, there's a two-step process. The first step is the Planning Commission holds a public hearing and they make a recommendation to the Township Board. Whether it's favorable or unfavorable, it still goes to the Township Board, and they're the bodies who make the ultimate decision. But this body works on behalf of the Township Board in reviewing that. Just want to make sure everyone kind of had an idea where we're at. So I will try to answer some of the questions I heard from the public. So yes, the zoning map amendment isn't for the entirety of the property. There is the little bit chopped up north of Drainer. And the reason for that is that property is intended to be split and it will remain with the camp. So generally, it's not advisable to have property in two different zoning districts. It causes all sorts of challenges, but because of the intent with the split, that's why it looks like this. A couple things to consider with zoning map amendments is there can be a change in the developmental standards with setbacks and the number of lots you can fit in, but there's also a change in the uses that are available. In this case, the lot sizes are getting smaller, the setbacks are getting smaller, but also the uses are generally considered to be less intense that can occur there. So in the SF districts, there can be a lot of agricultural districts and some commercial uses that are consistent with ag. In the residential districts, it's primarily residential. So there are two sides on that coin. Let's see. Commissioner Knoll did ask me to do some quick math on the potential number of lots. So I'm going to give you some numbers in a range here. And again, remember this is a 12-inch brush I'm painting with here. So theoretically, the 129 acres, if it were a billiard table and there were no restrictions, kind of a rule of thumb is 15% of a lot will be used for infrastructure, for streets and those types of things. So we take that off the top and we get roughly 109 acres. So with the current zoning, you can get roughly 43, with proposed roughly 109. Now I want to offer this caveat to that. The minimum lot area can include wetlands. You just need to have minimum lot area for buildable area and for well and septic. Now, again, as Mr. Sharp mentioned, there's significant wetland areas apparent in the southern portion of the property. Don't know the extent of that because we haven't gotten the site plan review, but assuming it's around 25% of the lot, we get down to 96 acres, give or take, of developable area, which would put you between 35 and 45 lots in the current zoning district. Again, remember, you can have some of the lot area in wetlands. If you were to do it in the 1 acre, there's less latitude for having wetland areas within the lot, because rule of thumb is you need 1 acre for a septic field and the reserve and those types of things. So rough math is around 65 to 75 lots. So because of the wetlands, the gap isn't as big as it would appear on a billiard table. See, we mentioned that it is kind of in a weird transitional spot, where to the west of it, it's relatively high density R1. To the east of it, it's an SF1 district. It is adjacent to the service area, and I suspect the service area wasn't drawn to include this because it was as a camp, and the camp doesn't have really heavy demands on infrastructure. So those are my quick answers to the questions that I've heard here tonight. Any questions for me while I'm up here?
Yeah, I have a question. We're just providing a favorable decision to the township board. We're not making a decision whether they can go forward, right?
Correct.
Can the township board request or propose plot plan from them before they get approval of zoning change?
Generally, no. So in the state of Michigan, there are 2 types of zoning map amendments or rezonings. One is a conditional, and that's where an applicant can come in and say, I want it to rezone to this, but here are some conditions I'm offering. The community can't place conditions or can't amend those. It's pretty much take it or leave it. So like if you were going to a commercial district and you just wanted to have a corner store or whatever, that may be more appropriate than a gasoline sales or something. So this has been presented just as a straight zoning map amendment, so it's pretty much take it as it is.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Bull.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you for giving us your best guess, rough estimate of how many homes could be there. This is a zoning map amendment. Would you help us, as well as the audience, understand again what the zoning map amendment can do? And then after you do that, the processes in which it has to go through before it hits dig dirt to build a house.
Yep. So the general question for zoning map amendments is, and for you guys, the zoning ordinance is pretty broad recommendation. It's basically, will the uses and the potential densities work for this property in the area? So it's kind of the very big 30,000 feet from the sky position. When property is developed, whether or not it's rezoned, that's when you kind of look at the details about how far do things sit from the road, how far do they sit from the lake. There are a couple of routes to developing property. There's just regular site condominium, which is colloquially called subdivision. That's where if they meet all the standards for lot sizes and street access and those things, they can do it. There's another path, which is a planned unit development, which is a bit more negotiated. So in cases of planned unit developments, lots might get smaller or setbacks change in exchange for recognizable and substantial benefit to the community. So preserving more open space or providing walking trail that's open to the public type of thing. And we haven't heard which route the applicants would like to take on this, but as part of site plan review, that's when those fine details are sorted out about where are the access points, where are the lots, where are the streets. Is it hooked up to sewer or hooked up to water? Let's see. Oh, one thing that did remind me is, this seems counterintuitive, but larger lots, 2.5 acres, it's possible to have individual septic fields on it. When the lots get smaller, gets more likely and it makes more financial sense to hook them up into a sewer system. So one potential benefit, someone asked what's the benefit for us, is instead of having, what was my math, 35 to 45 individual sewer septic systems, it all goes to a treatment plant off the site. So there's no potential for having septic fields fail in the area.
And to go on with that, a word picture for everyone, what is Tullamore, the one that's right next door?
I will have to do some quick researching on that one.
So is it a PUD? What did it go in and what were the, if any, benefits to the township?
That was a regular site condominium. As I recall, it did receive a variance to only have one access point instead of two. So Oxford Township says if you have more than 20 dwelling units, we want to have 2 access points. So the fire chief can get his stuff in there if one was blocked or not. But it is possible to request variances if you can prove hardships.
To the best of your knowledge, are they hooked up to water and sewer?
Yes.
They are. Zach, can you further clarify what's happening north of Drainer Road?
On Drainer Road,
North of Drainer Road.
my understanding is I've asked the applicant, and it alludes to in the application materials, is that the property north of Drainer will remain under ownership of the camp, so it will require land division, and it will be used by the camp as it has been used.
You might be going on a path I have a question on.
I'm sorry?
So you might be going on a path that I have a question.
Go ahead. Let me hear your question.
No, I know we're looking to just make a recommendation on zoning today. But based on some of the information, it wouldn't be best to split that lot up first so that we don't have dual zoning on the same piece of property at this time versus zoning and going the other way.
There
Because
is,
it creates some issues.
yep, there is a bit of a chicken and an egg there. It can be done either way. I will say, as a practical matter, if this portion south of it is to be developed, it's going to have to be split because you can't have different types of use
Agreed.
on the same property. So, as a practical matter, it has to happen as part of this development or of a development in the future.
I guess what my concern is if we go ahead and rezone and something happens relative to the entire project, we now have a piece of property that's zoned 2 different ways.
No, it's all zoned one way now.
No,
When it
because
gets
he's
split
saying,
off, you gotta rezone it back to its original zone.
so that's the strategy, is we rezone it one way and then rezone it back when we split it. Is that what you're saying is a recommendation? Or what could be a plan to do?
There are a couple of different routes. I will tell you, I haven't lost sleep about this split zoning.
Mhm.
I have seen a lot of places where it does cause a lot of weird problems. There are some cases though where split zoning is required. I'm reminded Mount Pleasant, there was a microbrewery that wanted to have a tasting room, and you couldn't have a tasting room in an industrial district, but you could only have a brewery in there. So it was like that room was the zoning district. You could have just fixed the zoning ordinance other ways, but so I'm not going to lose sleep about the current approach with it not having split. There's no requirement in the zoning ordinance that says one lot, one zoning district. It's just very good practice to have.
And I would agree, it's a very good practice to have. And my only concern about going the other route is if we make a recommendation to zone to R3, and then we go through this process, why would Crossroads want to rezone back to SF1? I don't understand why they would want to do that.
Correct, so I think the way I, excuse me, the way I see it, our recommendation would be to move to R3 with the caveat that a lot split is performed first.
Okay?
That would be my recommendation to the board.
And remain, that northern part would stay SF1.
Yeah, things to the north of Drainer, because I don't want to put that those two parcels in R3 and then have to come back and.
Agreed, and that's kind of what my question is, what's the best process to go down to make sure that that's the case?
Yeah. I will caution that it is, because it's a straight zoning amendment request, it's a very tricky thing to place conditions on it. And it would be tough to be legally defensible, but there is time between now and when it gets to the township board, so the applicants could be advised. The township board is gonna ask these questions, you should think about getting this division done.
I just want some clarity here. If everything goes the way the petitioner wants it all the way down the line, is the section of his parcel on the north end of Drainer, is that gonna be back to SF1?
Yes, that would remain.
But we're gonna make it, if it's approved, he's gonna get that converted to R3 and then it's gonna be reconverted back to SF1?
No, the request is for the portion south of Drainer to be R3.
Okay, so why didn't this original property line just follow the road?
Because it's an ancient, massive parcel that was,
Go back to the surveyors.
yep, that when they were selling land after the Northwest Ordinance 1787, they just did great big chunks, regardless of where lakes were or where roads went. And so this is one of those ancient parcels that is just there.
I mean, from my personal perspective, I'd like to see it split first. That's just my personal opinion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Knoll?
either Mr. Sharp or could jump in on this. Explain to us about the water and the sewer that is, it could be very close to that and be accessed through that piece of property?
What specifically do you want to know, Mr. Knoll?
If this were to go through, what options does the township builder future life bring for water and sewer in that area? So we don't have to put septics for every house?
Well, again, there's a.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I think
Yeah, we're
the
getting,
discussion is good.
I don't want to say a little ahead of the game because I don't have a development plan, but I understand, assuming that things move forward. There is a existing pump station at Camp Oakland. It has some capacity, as you're aware, you're on the Water and Sewer Committee. It's somewhat limited, so we would have to, definitely address that. But there's the potential for them to connect, instead of having the individual septic fields for each, however many lots they move forward with, to connect the sanitary sewer to that lift station, which is then pumped, out towards M24, just as the Woods of Tullamore development is, and so forth. With regards to the water, again, we have, we've run into some watering restrictions, so we have to be really careful as to how many properties we allow to connect to the water system. We would like to extend and include that into the township's water system. But again, we would have to do a study to make sure that the number of lots that they are proposing doesn't affect people who live down Drainer Road and is gonna deplete them of their water as well. So it's not just a slam dunk. And again, the applicant, we haven't seen a plan, they're not in the water and sewer districts currently. Obviously, anytime you can get something sewer, that's preferred. Oakland County Health Division, they're in the business of septics, but, they obviously like to see things that are connected to the sewer systems.
Yeah, we're not in the business of,
Huh?
we're not in the business of septic, just.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, they're there for that, but obviously they would like to have it connected, so anytime something happens, Chris,
We
who's
prefer
our
to-
sanitarian in the area, he calls me up and says, is there a sewer nearby?
Yeah, we prefer to have.
So it's gonna be difficult to say, yes, there is one, but guess what, they can't connect, So we would definitely prefer that, and I think that, it's just better for the environment than the septics themselves. So does that kind of clear up
It
your
does, and I
questions?
apologize, but I thank you with Mr. Chair's permission. Zach and
Yeah, I don't know.
Jim, for answering some of these questions. I wanted to lay the whole process out. I want to make the residents aware that we do have capabilities possible in regards to sewer and
Yeah.
water.
And as you, I mean, the rest of the PC doesn't know this, you know, but we are, in the Water and Sewer Committee, we are working on ways to upgrade the sewer systems and upgrade the water systems of the township so that we can, you know, fully support, you know, not just the people that are here now, but, you know, additional developments as well. And we don't have water restrictions and things that we currently, like we had to do last year, so.
But regardless of the zoning, regardless of what it's zoned, those parcels though, whatever gets put on them, they need to contribute to the pumping station, correct? Or upgrading it, or is that solely borne on the township?
Most likely, that pump station would have the capacity to support this development. Again, I just going off the top of my head, so there shouldn't be any improvements that are needed to be made. But yes, any improvements that are needed to be made, we would look to the developer to make those upgrades, yes.
But then the township's responsible for maintenance after.
Correct. And then the township's responsible for the maintenance of the sewers in a development, the pump stations, those types of things afterward. But yes, we do look to the developers to install the infrastructure and upgrade the infrastructure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Corey?
When you mentioned the limited water supply or lower pressure, in the event that that doesn't get upgraded and each house has to have a well, I'm assuming, what will we be doing for hydrants in the event of a fire? Are you back to shoveling water, or how do you fight back there? Because there's nowhere really anywhere to draft.
Well, Clearview's very familiar with this. They developed a property out called Savannah Ridge, which is out on Stanton Road and near Baldwin. And they had to drill a well out there for Pete's firefighting needs, specifically for that. That development out there is completely on domestic wells and septic systems. But Pete did have them, you know, go in. They had to drill a well and, you know, hook the electricity up and everything, so that it is operational for the chief.
Okay.
Similarly, we did one just to the east of this, North Oakland Woods, which is a little bit further down Drainer Road. And there they did one where they drilled a well, Pete, for a fire hydrant. And then they have another one where they extended a pipe out into Grampian Lake, is that correct? And they put a cage on it so it doesn't get weeded up, but then it just draws water from that lake too in the event of firefighting needs. So there are different options if it doesn't get hooked up to the water system, as to, you know, to help Pete out. Sorry, Pete, didn't mean to steal your thunder. I should let you get up here.
Yeah, Chief, you have anything else to add?
I want to ask for an example
As far as our review, again, with a blank piece of property, not knowing how the streets are gonna run in development, so on and so forth, it's not a lot I can say at that point. There is water, like Engineer Sharp said, there is water right at the northwest corner of the property. So I mean, I technically do have a hydrant sitting right on the front right across from Jeffrey King, right on the corner, or James Hunt, excuse me, right on the corner right there. My personal opinion, I mean, I want water everywhere. I want hydrants. If there's a development, I want hydrants throughout the entire thing. It's a benefit to us, and at the same time, it's a benefit to them for ISO rating. It helps that way. I did require development to the east of there. They did have to put a well in, and they also, like mentioned, they do have the dry hydrant in the lake. But again, without knowing what the layout's going to be, but that was my request is, if you can give me water, I need water, throughout the entire project.
Thank you.
Okay, we did have other communications. The sheriff didn't have anything really to say, and neither did the Parks and Rec. So, Ed, you have another
I
question?
just want to ask Zach one more question.
Yep.
Seems to me we were involved in something like this before in the past, and I don't remember. How does conditional rezoning work?
So conditional zoning, I'll start with the example again to a commercial use, because that's kind of the clearest one. So a property that might makes sense for some commercial uses, but not all of them. The applicant might know if I try and go in with just a blank one, it's going to be denied because you have to look at all the potential uses. So the applicant could come in and say, I want a conditional zoning map amendment, and here are the conditions I'm going to offer, that it can only be for these 4 uses. Or if it's a commercial use, the hours, it's going to shut down at 10 at night, or we're going to have extra buffering, or whatever. So it's a complicated tool. It can be nice for very specific uses. The reason why it's not possible to do negotiation with the conditions is it can feel kind of dirty and messy and horse trading. And so when it was written in the Zoning Enabling Act, they said, applicant presents it, you can't ask for it or amend the
So we
condition.
can't ask, he's got to present it.
Correct.
Okay.
And there's a complicated process where it has to get recorded. If the conditions aren't met, it reverts to the original zoning, which is rather complex and painful for everybody. But it can be a tool that works well, but it wasn't the tool used in this case. All right. Thank you. Oh, I will add, this was briefly alluded to. When it comes time for site plan review, there is generally some sort of study that the Environmental Health Department does with well capacity, if it's going to be on wells. That's not part of the zoning map amendment, but you know, if in theory zoning would allow 1,000 lots, but you can only have enough water in the aquifer for 100, they're going to say you get 100 wells for that spot. So it's complex. We don't have the answers to that right now because it's not questions that are being asked for this petition. Thank you.
Eric, do you have anything else to add? You heard some of the public comments in reference to traffic, lot sizes, the effects development may have on the coastal plain, the lake.
I came up, sorry.
So, oh, no problem. Clean my glass. Is there anything else you wanted to address, or maybe you guys have tossed some
Yeah, I mean, I
thoughts
can,
around in your mind or in your office about what you think may be happening?
yeah, I can maybe shed some light and try and answer some of the questions. I think I guess the first one to start with just is this question about the property to the north of the road, south of the road. The analogy to the chicken or the egg is probably a good one. There's no value, and the seller doesn't want to split the property off, spend the money, have the survey done, and split it if it won't get rezoned. So there's no value in doing that piece first if the rezoning isn't going to happen. If the whole parcel stays as it currently is and is 2.5 acres, then it is what it is. So to split that off, spend the time, the money, and the energy to do that first, and then go through the rezoning process, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us or for the seller. So that's why the process and the order that it's happening. But that being said, our purchase would only be the property to the south. So like Zach talked about, the practicality of it is everything that you guys are talking about and want to see happen, I think, if I'm interpreting it right, is what would happen. It's just a matter of going through the exact process and getting it to that final stage. So I don't know if that totally answers that or not, but it's all one piece right now. So for us and the seller, the logical step is to see if it can get rezoned first before attempting to have something split. So as far as just the overall talking about the density and the effects on the environment, there was some comments from Jim and Zach that kind of alluded to it. At its current zoning, it can be developed right now, meets all the requirements. We could bring in a site plan right now that easily meets all the township requirements at 2.5 acres. It would all be well and septic. And again, Zach alluded to it. In the overall scheme of things, if you're talking about the environment and the effect on animals and the surrounding areas, it's actually going to have a much larger impact. You may have fewer homes, but they're gonna be spaced out way more. There's gonna be way more linear footage of road. There's gonna be, for sure, well and septics. Won't even be a question because financially, it wouldn't make any sense to try and tie into a community well or a pump station and have sewers. So, our plan, and we haven't done a site plan, we've, kicked around some initial ideas. Our plan would most likely be to come in and apply for a cluster option, which again, when you talk about effects on the environment and trying to save as much of the natural beauty and be effective and efficient, we don't want to do anything, I know where the gentleman on the back where they're talking about the lake. Like, I love lakes, everybody loves lakes, we're not gonna do anything to harm the lake, we're not gonna build homes, try and cram a bunch on the lake. There are a ton of wetlands on the property. Our goal is to keep all of that natural space as much as possible. And the cluster option actually that the township allows is really designed exactly for that. So that is our initial look of what we plan on doing. But again, we're so early on in the process. There hasn't been a wetland study yet. There hasn't been a topo survey done yet. We're so early in the process to really answer any of those in-depth questions would be really just shooting at the hip. And I'm not sure that would have a ton of value in that, So for us, the first step is exactly what we're looking for. See what path we need to go down. Do we stick with the current zoning? And if that's all we can, then yeah, at the end of the day, the 2.5 acres are gonna have a larger impact on all of the things that the people stood up here and talked about at the end of the day. Maybe other than the traffic, which, when you talk about the numbers that Zach, brought up and talked about, you're talking about a difference of, average it out, 30 homes. I mean, I don't think that the overall road infrastructure couldn't handle an additional 30 cars, so. Unless there's other specific questions, that's probably really all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, I'll look for some discussion from the commissioners. I still question how administratively that parcel split's gonna work. I'm sure you've got that kind of sorted out, Zach?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
I guess I have a general, more of a comment. Because this is the 4th, 5th development that's come in front of us for rezoning lately, over the last 2 years, I think. And it's always changing from our future use map to something smaller. And I'm always concerned about that. I moved out here to Oxford for the same reason you guys did. And I'd like to keep the lots as big as possible. In this case, looking at the map and what we have, I believe it to be a good buffer change. But leading to the west of that, in the future, if anybody came in for a development, I would not be willing to change those zonings at all. Because right now you go from, I think, an R1 to an SF1, which is a big jump in zoning.
Right.
We didn't have a buffer zone in there. So to me, this is a good transition zone. But in the future, anything outside of the west of that, I will not support going any smaller.
Ed?
Or east of that, I'm sorry.
As Mike said, I moved out here 30 plus years ago to live in a rural environment where you had large lots and such, and we have this zone for a specific purpose, and I'm not opposed to looking at any zoning for change, but my issue is not knowing what's going in there, and how it's going in there. It affects how I want to decide on this. When you have residents come out and oppose it, then it causes more controversy in my mind. But to me, I've always said, we have standards in place for a reason. If we're not going to adhere by them, then why have them? That's all my comments.
Okay, Mr. Knoll?
I took the opportunity to look into the master plan, and this follows in with the master plan's writings as far as residential, SF1, and residential for the zoning. I'm concerned about the traffic as well on these dirt roads and things. I'm concerned about water and sewer availability for residential. I'd hate to see that go in out there with trying to do septics and wells on every piece of property. I could see sewer being used and possibly wells, but I want to see that expanded up into that area. We can't ask you to do that, but I think when you do the numbers, we did some numbers today in our meeting for some different pieces of property in regards to how much it would cost to do septic and water, and the numbers are very, very high to do individual versus doing a pump lift station and some things. So I would really like you to look into that and to take that with all earnest to go forward to try to develop it that way. The splitting of the property is a little difficult, but I think we can cover that with a motion to talk about that the property north of Drainer Road will remain SF1, suburban farms and districts. So I think we can take care of that there. So those are my comments.
Mr. Bailey?
Well, I share Mr. Hunwick's sentiment that, we've got these in place for a reason, and obviously we can deviate from them. One of my biggest concerns is water supply in that area. I know we can always bring in a well, we can bring in a few other things, but I think we're kind of overtaxing the system as it is right now.
Yep.
A little concerned.
And as far as I know, either way we go, we'd more than likely stay on well and septic. On either zone. And you really can't make a determination on that because you don't know what's going in yet. You don't know if anybody will contribute to additional pump or infrastructure, so. I do like the idea of it being a transitional zone between the SF1 that exists on one side and the R1 that's on the other side. I do like that.
Oh, sorry. Regardless of how we decide today, this issue goes in front of the township board, right?
Yes. Yeah, and what we're gonna decide is whether we wanna recommend or not recommend to the township board
Right.
the rezoning.
If we don't recommend, it goes in front of the township board anyway. Right, okay,
Just doesn't come with our recommendation.
right.
Correct. Okay. Any other questions or concerns or points?
No, difficult decision. I can make a motion if you like, and then each board member can vote accordingly if you like, Mr. Chair.
I'll entertain a motion.
This is a favorable motion, and it's a little long, so you have to bear with me. I've got this mask on. So I move that the Planning Commission give favorable recommendation with a zoning map amendment from SF1 Suburban Farms to R3 Single Family Residential for roughly 129.7 acres of property located at 930 Drainer Road, partial ID number 0436100001 and parcel number 0436100002. Applicant Clearview Homes, care of Jerry Griffin. This recommendation is based upon the following findings. The proposed zoning map amendment is for the portion of the property south of Drainer Road. The portion of the property north of Drainer Road will remain in the SF1 Suburban Farm District. Number 2, the proposed zoning district is generally consistent with the future land use map and the master plan. Number 3, the proposed zoning district is generally consistent with the surrounding areas and uses. And number 4, the potential uses within the proposed zoning districts are not likely to create substantial negative impacts on utilities, infrastructure, or public services.
I'll support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll request a roll call vote.
Hunwick,
No.
Nold,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Bailey,
No.
Young.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Point of clarification, Mr. Chair?
Yes?
Is the vote based on the members present or members in total? Because there's 2 members that are not here.
Present.
So it's only those
I
present?
don't think it requires a,
Overall majority? It should be 4.
I think it's a majority of those present
Present.
for a recommended rezoning.
Okay, the motion passes. We have no items under item 9 or 10. We move to communications and committee reports. There will be a meeting scheduled next month for the Economic Development Committee. Those of you on that committee will get that in your mailbox next week. Can we get a ordinance review committee summary?
Yes, the orders review was off this month. We're going to be ramping things up next month. We're going to complete our matrix that we've been working on, separating out the different zoning districts. We're going to be looking at containerization and storage thereof in different zoning districts.
Okay, planner reports. Carlisle Wortman.
It's been busy this spring. I'll stand up so folks can see me.
You want
Um,
to mic, Mr. Chair? so that-
Yeah, come on up.
Okay, yeah, I forget the fancy camera. And it's nice to see everybody. I think last time we were here was February, or pre-March 2020. There's a lot of activity going on. Mr. Sharp can address it. There's Enclaves has got shovels in the ground. They're actually building their models now shortly. Manners of Westlake has started construction. And so there's a lot of building, and it's, again, compared to last year, it's a very healthy mix of different things. It's people making improvements to their house, adding pools, replacing decks, and some new houses in there as well. And that's what we've got.
Very good. Sharp Engineering.
Mr. Noel, what do you want to know specifically about M24? Right now, they're putting the trees in. Most of the work is in the village. All of the work that's in the township with regard, except for maybe some restoration items, has been completed in the township. But
When will it be done?
supposed to be done by Memorial Day, June 1.
Better see no stones, there's nobody out there doing it.
That's a little frustrating. I agree. You see it out my window every day, all the traffic backed up. But yeah, they're just doing the streetscape items, irrigation, trees, finishing up the brick pavers and things of that nature. So yeah, it's supposed to be done by Memorial Day. And in addition to what Zach mentioned about the Enclaves and Westlake, which are moving forward with construction, get your Butterburger fingers ready. You can see that the Culvers is also moving along. They're going to be finishing up their curb work and doing their parking lot paving as soon as the asphalt plants open up here. So they probably got a couple months before they're open for business, but it'll be here soon. Other than that, any other questions development-wise I could answer? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move to item 13, I just want to, make a note that we did make a recommendation to the Township Board that they move forward with that rezoning. That doesn't mean that they'll approve it or accept it. In the event that they do, the next step would be a preliminary site plan from a developer. And then that has to go through the process of coming before this board again, and that's where things get laid out and what they intend to do with the actual parcel. So there's a lot more behind this, or I guess in the future, that needs to be spelled out, and many more opportunities to get involved in how that parcel gets developed. And with that, I appreciate everyone's ability to come in person this week, or this meeting. And I adjourn this meeting at 10 after 8. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for hearing our voices.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming out.